And so we do Caribbean climate science. We do, for example, historical change in the Caribbean climate. We model future changes. So how will the Caribbean climate change going to the end of the century? We try to look on the drivers of Caribbean climate science. We try to examine climate Caribbean data and put up data portals so that anybody can access Caribbean climate data. We do impact modeling, climate impact modeling. We try to produce layman's science, and we try to build Caribbean climate decision-making tools. So tools that decision makers can use. Put all of that together and we do Caribbean climate science, or what we call science for resilience. We don't have the luxury of doing science for science. We have to do in the region science for resilience. My argument is, if you take the kind of climate science that is coming out of the community of climate science region, and you look on 2017 and 2019, some interesting perspectives emerge, and I simply want to leave a couple of those perspectives with you. So 2017 and 2019 are notable in the region, very notable because of the nature of their hurricane season. 2017, Irma, Maria, Jose, 3 Category 5, decimating the Eastern Caribbean. 2019, of course, Dorian, you are well aware of. My simple argument is, if you take 2017 and 2019 and put them or view them from the perspective of what Caribbean climate science is saying, I want to leave 3 perspectives, 3 ideas that emerge within the context of what Caribbean climate science is saying. And so in the 15 minutes I hear that I have left, starting now, I want to present those 3 ideas. So here we go. Idea number 1. When you take 2017 and 2019 and you view them against the background of what Caribbean climate science is saying, you get this interesting idea that 2017 and 2019 provides further evidence of a new climate era marked by unfamiliarity. And the key word there is unfamiliarity. Why do I say this? Well, Caribbean climate science has been making a number of statements. One, it's been saying we are getting hotter. There's no doubt about it. If you live in the Caribbean region, you live this reality. The truth is we're getting hotter in terms of the number of hot days we're having in a year. And you can see that the graph is increasing and the triangles are red and upward everywhere across the Caribbean region. But we're also getting hotter in terms of the number of hot nights that we're having a year. And that has a significant impact on energy usage. We have about 23 more hot days or hot nights since the 1950s. And you want to know where those are going? Well, summer seems to be starting earlier and reaching a higher temperatures and then lasting longer. Caribbean science says we are in an unfamiliar environment when it comes to temperatures. It also says we're a little bit of an unfamiliar environment when it comes to rainfall. Rainfall in the Caribbean has taken on this variable character. So it's not that we're necessarily getting wet or dry, as the top graph will show, but you can see one year we have a whole lot of rain, the next year we have very little rain, and you get this increased variability. And the nature and character of how rainfall is also changing. So we get these very long consecutive dry days, and when rain falls, it really falls. A little bit of an unfamiliar environment to us. Caribbean climate has been saying we're also seeing higher sea levels, and it doesn't matter where you are across the Caribbean. We are seeing higher sea levels. Rates rise about 3.5 millimeters per year. But every Caribbean person can tell you about a place in a country where the beach was that is now in the ocean. That's that unfamiliar environment. And then Caribbean climate science has been saying we are seeing way more extremes. Now, extremes can take multiple forms. One of them is the top one, droughts. In the last 10 years, we have had 2 region-wide multi-year droughts. Simply put, in the last 10 years, at least 6 of those 10 years, the region has been under drought conditions. Put that, of course, alongside the fact that we have increasing intensity of storms. The simple truth is Caribbean climate science has been trying to make a case that Caribbean climate is becoming unfamiliar. We are in an era where the climate that we are experiencing is not familiar to us. What's very important about this unfamiliarity is that we're not expecting one or the other. That unfamiliar environment is a multi-hazard unfamiliar environment. So while you're dealing with the recovery from one storm, you might very well have to deal with a drought that exists at the same time. Well, if you take 2017 and 2019 and put it in that context of that message, 2017 and 2019 seem to provide further evidence of that unfamiliarity. We can look at a number of things, but for example, look on the fact that there are 36 recorded Category 5 hurricanes in the Caribbean and Atlantic. 14 or a full 39% have occurred since 2000. Something is happening about the 2000 onwards. Or look on the fact that only in 7 seasons have there been more than one Category 5 hurricanes. 4 of them have been since 2005. Or 2016 to 2019 is the longest sequence of consecutive years which have featured a Category 5 hurricane. If you take those 2 years, they fit into this paradigm, this new paradigm of unfamiliarity. Why is that at all important? Just in closing off this point, it's very important because in truth, the SIDS model of this development is premised on familiar climate. What do I mean by that? Well, think of all the things we use for economic productivity and quality of life. So think about our economies, agriculture, tourism. Think about our diseases, chikungunya, dengue, asthma. Think about our critical livelihood sectors, water and energy. Every one of these is critically climate sensitive. And really, their successful functioning is dependent on the climate being familiar and favorable. Now, familiar doesn't necessarily mean good, but when it varies outside the bounds, it must vary out in bounds that we are already used to. And in that kind of era of extreme climate sensitivity for economic productivity and quality of life sectors, Caribbean, smaller and developing states cannot develop in a consistent manner. If I were to use agriculture, for example, if you might not be able to see the graph, but every time agriculture in Jamaica tried to go up, there was a climate event that pulled it down. Very simple argument I want to make. If you take 2017 and 2019 and you put it in the context of what Caribbean climate science is saying, well, Caribbean climate science is already trying to make a case that we are in an era, a new era. There's an emergence of an era marked by climate unfamiliarity. Well, 2017 to 2019 provides further evidence of that. That is important for me and you because what 2017 and 2019 is reminding us is simply this. Our development pillars are simply unreliable in an era of unfamiliar climate. We cannot develop consistently. But very quickly, I know I have 10 minutes left now. What else it's only 3 things. What else can we take from 2017 and 2019? You know, if 2017 and 2019 is providing us with this further evidence that we're in this era marked by unfamiliarity, and we have to deal with this as Caribbean nations because we cannot develop, our development pillars are unreliable. Then it's also doing something else. It's saying, when you view it from the Caribbean climate science perspective, 2017 and 2019 are really a foretelling of a future climate era that will be marked by the unprecedented. What do I mean by that? Well, Caribbean climate science has been trying to make a case that, boy, the climate era we are going to live in is going to be an unprecedented climate era. So if you think we're hot now, we're heading for hotter times. And it doesn't matter the scenario you take, whether the best case or worst case according to scenarios that exist out there. And this is the kind of science that we do. We have only warmed by about a degree globally. In the Caribbean, we will see 3 to 4 degrees more, 3 to 4 degrees of warming by the end of the century. Or put another way, up to perhaps 98% of all days in a year will be hot by current standards. That's unprecedented. That's climate that we have not lived through yet to date. Well, what about rainfall? Well, we've been trying to make the case that we're heading in for unprecedented rainfall. It's not that the rainfall will lose its variability, but after a certain time, as we approach mid-century, we are going to now start to vary about a lower mean. And the region may be anywhere between 30 to 40% drier, with individual countries having higher percentages. That now is that's unprecedented climate, through which we have not lived with to date. What about our sea levels? Our sea levels are going to continue to rise. And depending on the scenario, the worst case scenario is up to a meter sea level rise. And I did say meter compared to the millimeters I said before. And then what about those extremes? Well, you can model category 4 and 5 hurricanes in the future, the present versus in the future. And the idea is not that we necessarily will get more hurricanes, but we'll get more intense hurricanes passing. But you knew that already. And those droughts, well, the percentage of time that we're likely to be under moderate, extreme, or severe only increases as the global world warms. The idea I'm simply trying to put together is this. If you compare what the science tells us is going to happen with what we have already seen, the Caribbean climate is going to look a lot different. And how is it going to be different? It's going to be different in a way that we have not lived through before. It's an unprecedented climate. Well, what happens if we view 2017 and 19 in that context? It's a frightening picture. Because what I've put up here is what the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, this world governing body that has scientists that review the latest science, says of what future hurricanes will look like. They say we'll have rainfall rates that will increase. We'll have increases in maximum wind speed. We'll have the frequency unchanged, but intense storms will increase. We'll have rapid intensification, perhaps, and maintenance of hurricane strength, and perhaps even a poleward movement of hurricanes. How reminiscent is that of Irma and Maria? Everything that's said there, we could find an interesting analogy to Irma and Maria. How reminiscent is that of Dorian? 2017 and 2019 are perhaps just a little foretelling of that, a little glimpse at that unprecedented climate that is to come. What is the point I'm trying to make? Why is this at all important? Because in an era of unprecedented climate, you have unprecedented impacts. And that is what 2017 and 2019 gave us a glimpse of. Why is that important? Because impacts are across every sector and impact every human being. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to say this. As a region, we have committed ourselves to going after some sustainable development goals. If you use 2017 and 2019 as any example, every single goal that we are going after will be impacted by an unprecedented climate. It's food, it's water, it's life on earth, it's life underneath, it's gender, it's inequality, it's justice. Does not matter. In an era of unprecedented climate, we'll have significant impact on the things we are trying to go after to determine quality of life and standards of living. Simply put, our pursuit of the Sustainable Development Goals are going to be delayed in a future of unprecedented climate. So, what am I saying? When you take 2017 and 19, put it in the context of Caribbean climate science, science is already telling us we're living already in an era marked by unfamiliarity. 2017 and 19 gives us the evidence of that. Caribbean development pillars unreliable. Caribbean science is telling us that we're heading towards a future era marked by the unprecedented climate as we have not known before. 2017 and 19 is a little foretelling of that future. And if our development pillars are now unreliable, our development goals are going to be unattainable in that future. So in the 5 minutes I have left, what is the very last one? Don't worry, I hear I have all the time that the first two speakers didn't use. The very last thing that you get when you put 2017 and 2019 in the context of Caribbean climate science is this. When you take 2017 and 19 and put it in the context of Caribbean climate science, 2017 and 2019 are giving us frank notification of the need for opt regional action marked by urgency. The key word is urgency. I don't need to tell you, you will hear about it in the context of this conference, and you're going to hear, and you have heard about it already. But we need certain kinds of action. Clearly, do not discount mitigation. We need to deal with mitigation as a Caribbean region. In the region, in climate science, mitigation is dealing with the things that cause the problem, which is the greenhouse gases. For us, we must be a part of the mitigation process, because it's only if the world deals with it can we prevent the worst future from happening. For us, mitigation is our source of energy. It's dealing with forests, it's dealing with oceans, it's dealing with waste, and it's dealing with transportation. We need to deal with that, and we need to deal with that in a holistic, regional manner. But clearly, and you have heard about it, we need to deal with adaptation. No matter what we do, we are committing ourselves to a climate change future. And really, the challenge at 2017 and 2019 tells us about adaptation is we have to look again at the standards, the norms, and the basis that we are using to dealing with everyday life. We really have to deal with planning, and we have to put mainstream climate change into planning. We have no choice now, and that's what 2017 and 2019 is telling us. And then you could almost guess where I was going to go with the last one. Because I'm from the climate science community, we have to deal with research. We need actions that are informed by contextual research. It is true that the climate science community has made advances, but the Caribbean is lagging behind in research, especially in the human dimension of climate change. And that human dimension research has to be very contextually relevant. It can't be research, as you heard from the first two speakers, that are imported from elsewhere. We need to deal with that, but that is our pathway to resilience. So in ending, what am I saying? If you take 2017 and 19, put it in the context of Caribbean climate science, it is clear. Caribbean climate science says we are already living in an unfamiliar thing. 2017 corroborated it. Our development pillars are unreliable. We need to deal with that. Caribbean climate science says we're heading for a future marked by the unprecedented. 2017 and 19 gave us a glimpse of that. In that future, our development goals are simply unattainable. Caribbean climate science says, boy, we need regional action marked by urgency. In some quarters, we're not seeing that urgency. Clearly, 2017 and 2019 gave us a frank notification of that urgency. And I can't end on a bad note. But if we put in place those actions, and it's clear that our development agendas will be untouchable, 2017 and 2019 are a stark reminder that, listen, we need to now move from development pillars that are unreliable to development agendas that are untouchable, and we can do